Thanks for attending. We value your time. We'll do everything we can to ensure that it's well spent. My name is Norm Koenig. I am the SVP of Sales here at Platinum Data Solutions. I've been in the technology for mortgage lending business for over 25 years. I've got a passion for using technology to solve business issues and have had great success in doing so throughout my career. I feel very fortunate to be part of the Platinum Data Solutions team. Hosting these webinars is one of the favorite things that I get to do. Feel free to reach out to me at any time. I've got my email addresses on screen here, and you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions at any time, in the Go To Webinar pane, there's a questions section, and you can click on that and just type in your questions. We're going to have a brief Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Also, we're going to be recording this webinar and posting it to YouTube, and we're going to email all the attendees a link so that they can replay this to others or share it or review it. We've had a great turnout today, and I'm confident that you're all going to come away from this session more knowledgeable about Platinum Data Solutions. So from that perspective, you'll all be winners. However, one other fortunate attendee is going to also receive a special gift from Platinum Data. This randomly selected person is going to win an iTunes gift card valued at $50. While it's not a prerequisite that you dance like this if you win, we highly encourage that you do so. Don't forget the fine print, you must be present to win. So no dropping off, please. Platinum Data is all things collateral and technology. We've been in business for a dozen years, and we offer the services in the 4 channels shown on screen here. While we're going to be covering the first 2 channels during this webinar, I wanted to make sure the audience understands the full breadth of solutions that we have to offer. Our website is shown below, and additional contact info is going to be available at the end of the webinar as well. So what sets Platinum Data apart? We have a state-of-the-art component-driven technology and analytics that are second to none. We also have a team of highly competent, dedicated people with a positive can-do attitude. So it's really the intersection of these two that sets us apart. That's kind of our secret sauce, okay? That's what, just bring us your business issues, and we'll put a solution in place faster than anybody else. Joining us today from Texas is Lisa Binkley. She is our SVP of Client Strategy and Implementations. You may have read one of her many articles in various trade publications. You may have seen her on panels at mortgage banking conferences, or noticed that she was named as one of only 20 in HousingWire magazine's Women of Influence in 2013, alongside such notables as Janet Yellen and Elizabeth Warren. So we have a great staff here at Platinum. I'm confident that you'll enjoy hearing from Lisa. Platinum Data Solutions is a very client-centric organization. We actively solicit feedback from our users, and that feedback drives our product development efforts. In short, we listen to our clients' needs. As such, any product-specific webinar we do almost demands that we bring in one of our clients, and we're lucky today to have a great one with us. From Columbus, Ohio, we're pleased to have Stephen French joining us. Stephen's responsible for all operations and appraisal management division of Nations Valuation Services. Nations has been a great client and partner of ours since 2011, and it's been very rewarding to work with Stephen in particular, who has shown himself to be a true visionary in the field. This will become apparent pretty quickly. Stephen is quite the RealView power user. Today he will share how he's using RealView and the difference it's making in his business.
Norm, thank you. Appreciate it. And thank you to Platinum Data for having me today. I'm excited to be here and share my experience with Platinum. I'm a strong believer in sharing best practices, and when I find something that makes a major difference in our operation, our bottom line, I believe that it's important to share that with others. Before I begin, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Nations Valuation Services and myself. Nations was established in 1989 as a part of the Nations family of real estate servicing companies. We are a national appraisal management company formed with the objective of providing unbiased real estate appraisals, broker price opinion, and alternative valuation products to the residential mortgage lending industry. I joined the Nations team out of our San Diego-based office in 2002. The director of our vendor partnerships. I was responsible for the oversight and partnership management of our appraiser panel. after opening a new operations center in Columbus, Ohio in 2009. I'm now the Executive Vice President, and as Norm stated, I'm responsible for all day-to-day operations, client vendor management, quality, and profitability. Like everyone, I believe the key to Nation's success has been differentiating ourselves in the market. This is where Platinum Data, and RealView have come in. At Nations, we've grown our business by nearly 40% in 1 year, and all by solving some pretty common appraisal challenges. And I'd like to explain how we did it and hopefully get some of you the shortcuts that I wish someone had given me many years ago. 3 years ago, as Norm said, we launched with Platinum, and we were doing roughly 6,000 to 8,000 appraisals per month. We faced the same significant challenges in our quality control review process that I know most AMCs are still facing today. Things like inconsistency in our review, difficulty in assessing appraisal complexities, and appraisal report compliance created constant inefficiencies throughout the fulfillment cycle, and almost 65% of our files requiring corrections from our vendors. After implementing RealView, our business has grown by nearly 40%, and our corrections rate has been cut nearly in half. The fiscal year after implementing RealView, as we stated, our volume increased by 40%. People ask, well, how did you do it? The answer there is through the implementation of the RealView, we standardized our review process, we became more efficient, and we reduced our appraisal turn times considerably. There were two main things that were severely limiting our production and our profitability. The first, as I mentioned, was the inconsistency in our appraisal reviews. Our review staff was left to follow their own subjectivity, and we weren't able to ensure any consistency for each individual reviewer. Without these controls, not only were there corrections requested from appraisers close to 65% of the time, but we were seeing nearly 30% of our files returned for revisions by underwriting. These same challenges we often face with our clients' underwriters and back-end stipulations we were creating with our vendors without that standardization. So you ask, how did this impact our business? Well, number one, higher risk. There was a increased potential of failing to meet minimum standards, identifying the inconsistencies, and putting our lenders at risk. This led to longer turn times, unnecessary back and forth with appraiser partners for miscorrections or false positive corrections, which also created some strains on the relationship that we had established with our vendor partners. In addition to that, we had a higher touch rate. What this meant was more money was spent per file. We were having to re-review each file as a result of these inconsistencies. Additional back and forth created with our clients post-delivery of the product meant delays with closings, and a loss of trust and faith in the product and increased stress on our customer service. Some of the other major challenges were fractured and time-consuming revision process. Every time we needed an adjustment or information from an appraiser, our review department has to go into a time-consuming back and forth communication process. Every time there was an issue, even if a small one, the reviewer had to send a file back. Again, these resulted in longer turn times, a higher touch rate, and significant declines in our profitability. It's almost impossible to differentiate yourself if you're not turning files around quickly, especially in the ultra-competitive market that we have seen today. So this is why we implemented RealView. RealView completes an automated evaluation according to a 75-item checklist. Lisa's going to cover this in a little bit more detail in just a few minutes. RealView brings the speed and consistency of automation along with a thorough and accurate evaluation from its analytics. After we implemented RealView, our process became standardized and consistent amongst our review staff. Every appraisal was screened the same way every time. We went from a 60 to 65% pre-delivery correction rate to 35%, which is far below what we believe the industry standard to be. In addition to that, our one-touch rate, as we call it, increased from 70% to 88%, meaning just 12% of the files that we're delivering to our clients are requiring revision. This led to increased efficiency. We get high-quality reviews faster. Our review times were reduced by as much as 25% while improving accuracy and dependability in our deliverable product to our client. In addition to that, overall turn times were also reduced significantly. Appraisals stopped slipping through the cracks, which meant we stopped all of the careless errors being delivered. RealView's pre-screening review practices eliminated the back and forth communication between appraisers and reviewers and all those unnecessary additional touches. The bottom line, what this led to, is happier customers. We achieved a level of quality that differentiated us from our competition. The fact that we can be counted on for high-quality appraisals at a faster turn time made us a preferred vendor for a top 3 lender. The fiscal year after we implemented RealView, volume for NVS was up about 40%, and it has continued to climb since. I have a sense of security with my customers now, knowing that I can give them the speed and quality that they can't find anywhere else, and a consistency in our review process that is really unmatched. If it were me, I would at least see a demo of RealView, and I wish I had done this before I did 3 years ago. If you're like most businesses, you're not maximizing your operation. And if I had known how much RealView would have increased business and productivity 5 years ago, I'd have done it then. I wish someone had given me this information rather than having to spend time finding it out on my own, but I'm glad that I did.
Wow, thank you so much, Stephen. That's a lot of great information about the positive impact that RealView has had on the Nations organization. We truly value our partnership with Nations, and you touched on the exact issues that I hear regularly from customers, underwriters, reviewers, over and over as we start talking about reviewing appraisal reports. The biggest challenges that they face are consistency and efficiency. So today, I'm just going to talk into a little deeper level than what Stephen just touched on, specifically how automation with RealView imparts a level of quality that actually enhances your bottom line. Conversations with our new customers reveal that the majority of the industry is still manually underwriting the appraisal reports. They are using paper-based checklists or no checklist at all to render the appraisal decision. This isn't a practice that supports effortless appraisal quality, nor does it give an organization the data and analytics they require to succeed in today's lending environment. You know, there are 2 truths that I hold near and dear to my heart. I believe in automation. I believe in automation that enhances, not replaces, the human decision-making ability. Systems do not have the analytical capabilities that humans have or the logic that humans have. Secondly, I believe all underwriters and reviewers are fully capable of analyzing an appraisal report, but not all underwriters or reviewers are fully capable of analyzing an appraisal report the same way 100% of the time. You know, RealView provides so many features, but today I'm going to concentrate on the 2 that Stephen stated were their most common challenges in reviewing appraisals. Just as a reminder, we're not going to be demonstrating RealView today. You can schedule a demonstration after this webinar if you would wish. So let's point out quickly specific examples of what automating appraisal analysis with RealView provides. When you replace a manual process by systemically screening for appraisal conditions, you can gain intelligence and metrics regarding your appraisals. For example, how many of your companies would know the answers to the following questions? What percentage of the appraisals that you approved last month listed the property value to be 20% or greater than the predominant values in the area? Or, on the refinance loans you did last month, how many of those properties had been listed in the last 12 months? Or, do you know whether or not 65% of your appraisals had gross adjustments exceeding 25%? Do you know how compliant your appraisals were to published industry guidelines? Or do you know how your appraisers or AMCs are performing when it comes to defects in the appraisal report? Unless you are using a system that provides you with the data analysis around the appraisal report, you won't be able to track this type of valuable information about the appraisal. And basically, it puts your company at risk for audit findings and potentially repurchase requests. It's also very important to note that criminals who perpetrate fraud against mortgage lenders purposely select, or in other words, adversely select those lenders who do not use tools to identify inconsistencies in their process or their information. So let's get started addressing the first item that Stephen from Nations found so helpful with RealView. Stephen talked about efficiency. So defining efficiency is doing the highest level job as fast as possible with as little expense as possible. So basically, when we're efficient, we save money. The faster, easier, and more consistently you can achieve the highest level of quality, the more files you can not only review or underwrite, but also review or underwrite to regulations and guidelines. In today's world of manual appraisal underwriting, that's a problem. It's difficult to achieve high quality and speed when you are manually underwriting appraisal reports. For example, let's just put two underwriters side by side. The first underwriter, do they know when they sit down with their appraisal report, whether it's on their system or paper-based, do they know immediately before they open up that appraisal how much work they have to do? Or do they have to go through the appraisal report page by page before they understand the complexity of the report and then figure out what they need to do to ensure the collateral risk is sufficiently mitigated? What conditions do they need to add to the approval of the loan? Well, RealView is the solution to that problem. RealView boosts efficiency because upon opening the report, you know immediately whether the report was completed to industry standards, and you see an easily explainable score. So the RealView analyzes the appraisal using the 3 C's of collateral: compliance, credibility, and complexity. The user knows at a glance if the report is compliant with published investor guidelines based on the compliance score, whether it's credible or aligned with industry best practices, and then lastly, the complexity of the property. How difficult was this assignment for the appraisal, for the appraiser to complete? You know this instantly when you look at a RealView report. Additionally, when you use scoring against an appraisal report, you know immediately who is qualified to review or underwrite this appraisal. So you set your people at fear, or you set the people's fear at rest by eliminating your quota or performance fears. So gosh, I'm really not qualified to underwrite a multi-unit property. Or you know what, I don't really know a lot about condominiums. So you can automatically assign the more difficult properties or reports based upon the level of difficulty when you use scoring. You don't have to search for the entire report to know many things about that report when you use RealView. You have at your fingertips, you have at a glance your marketing trends, your location, your ownership. You also know whether you have licensing issues or bracketing issues between the subject and the comparables. Bottom line, you get accuracy without trying or effortlessly. The great news is that all of the data that's in RealView is from the appraisal report. So you don't have to review both the appraisal report and the RealView. You can rely on the data in RealView and then truly focus on those other elements in the appraisal report that require human eyes and human logic. Things like the sketch, the photos of the comparables and comparing the two, the map, or the appraisal comments. You can really delve into the appraisal comments and use your human logic to be able to determine whether the appraiser has addressed everything appropriately and whether that appraisal report has all the required attachments. The second thing that Stephen spoke about was consistency. So what is consistency? Consistency is making sure everyone on the team is doing the same thing. Consistency is making sure one person performs at optimal levels on all files at all times. Additionally, consistency is now mandated by CFPB. Yep, even appraisals. Your regulators rely on you to treat every single appraisal report the same way every single time. The problem today is that it's hard to achieve consistency with manual processes and people executing on the process. Why? Well, because we're human. We have good moods and we have bad moods. We have personal obligations. On a day-to-day basis, I might have to leave early so I can attend my son's baseball game, or I have a doctor's appointment that I need to get to. Okay, I'm going to put that file aside, and I'm going to get back to it after I return, or I'm going to rush through it so I can get this one done and meet my quota for the day. You know, the time of the day or the day of the week affects your moods. I am much sharper at 8 a.m. in the morning when I'm underwriting appraisal reports than I am at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when I need another cup of coffee. You know, two people do not share the same brain or the same level of experience. Or, for example, when you have a new hire, they don't have the same level of understanding your organization and their needs that you do as a seasoned employee of that company. So RealView can ensure consistency across every single one of those scenarios. RealView screens for specific tolerances that normally need to be calculated by hand. Massive amounts of data, and every piece will be accounted for, or deep analysis done consistently. So, for example, can you assure your management that every single individual that is reviewing the appraisal reports are adding up all of the adjustments for each comparable every single time to ensure that the proper mathematical calculations have been performed? When you use a system, that rules out that calculation process. And you can quickly put rules in place to perform those calculations for you that basically let your users then quickly focus on the exceptions in the appraisal report. This is versus dotting all of the I's and crossing all the T's that a page-by-page, line-by-line review requires. You know, on the screen right now, you can see the checklist report. And basically, there's a yellow butter bar that quickly allows a user to filter the rules for their organization. They don't need to look at all the no action required rules. They need to focus on the yes action required. So they can quickly filter the rules to know what they need to work on. So for example, you know, you might need to know which comparables have net and gross adjustments that exceed 15 to 25%. And it applies, once again, it's consistent. It applies that same rule to every single one of your reports. Another thing, you know, these are all items that reviewers of appraisal reports need to ensure are completed in the appraisal report. The 1004MC matches the one-unit housing trends on page 1. Or there's a septic, and the appraiser has marked that the septic is typical for the area. Or the present land use in the neighborhood adds up to 100%. You know, when you look at that specific piece, that's a piece where you have to add technology and your manual logical capabilities of a human. So the system can add up the percentages and tell you, gosh, you know what, the commercial influence might be greater than 45% in your market area. And your reviewer then applies their logical analysis on whether that meets or does not meet your investor guidelines for commercial influence in an area. You can also create custom rules that are specific to basic file types. You can have condominium rules. You can have single-family rules, FHA rules. And lastly, you can eliminate subject or comparable biases, you know, by applying the same criteria when evaluating comparables in relation to the subject. RealView also screens for the basic completeness and accuracy regarding completion and consistency. The primary benefit for consistency that RealView provides you is that every single report, every single time, is run against the same scoring method and the same lender rule set. This rule set is not in someone's head or on a piece of paper or a system file that will get lost. These rules and algorithms are based in our web-based platform, or fully integrated into your loan origination system or your appraisal management system. In some cases, RealView is even integrated into your appraisal provider system. Lastly, RealView quickly displays the exceptions in the report for an underwriter or a reviewer. So additional gains for your organization when you add consistency of process to the appraisal review is that everyone's on the same page. There's lower risk, fewer kickbacks. You have a defense against buybacks and an audit trail. You have a great way to train and promote people. And you maintain objectivity, not subjectivity. You focus on the facts, analyze data against data in the appraisal. So basically, when you apply RealView, it enables expert performance across the entire team. It doesn't eliminate the underwriter or the reviewer. It elevates the underwriter or the reviewer. RealView immediately enables a new hire to review in the same fashion as the seasoned employee. Just using a couple of examples, from the real world. Let's think of where you want to apply automated versus manual processes. Imagine two professionals, both exactly as competent as the other. You've got a LASIK surgeon, one who uses a laser versus one who uses a scalpel. Which doctor would you rather have? Or which doctor would you rather be? Second, a contractor. Let's look at a contractor that uses power tools versus a contractor that uses hand tools, a handsaw or drilling by hand. Which one do you want working for you? Another case that can be made is sometimes you want handmade furniture versus machine-made furniture. And so that's really where you can apply manual processes. So those are the great thing about RealView is that we allow you to choose your processes and understand that you need both automated and manual processes when you're reviewing the appraisal report. RealView allows the underwriter and the reviewer to use their skills in a more focused and targeted manner than reviewing all of the appraisal all of the time. RealView elevates your performance by increasing your efficiency, consistency, and accuracy. RealView promotes organizations with a level of intelligence regarding their collateral decisions and the providers of their collateral reports to support the data and analytical needs that has never been available before. Before I close, I wanted to let you know of a few things that we will be rolling out over the next several weeks. Tonight, as you've previously been notified, we are rolling out Platinum Comparable Scoring. This is where we will be providing new scoring with the appraisal comparables and public record nearby sales. The next enhancements to RealView entail a 3-page summary report of the pertinent facts from your review and the Platinum Value Score. I am really looking forward to having more conversations about these enhancements with you in the future. There's just so much more about RealView that I could share. I look forward to possibly another time when we can get together again. So I thank you very much for being here today. I wish I had more time to cover more of the features and benefits that RealView can give you as an organization.
Thank you, Lisa. The good news is that you can schedule a demo. And please call the number on the screen here. Reach out to Lisa, reach out to me. And if you decide that RealView works for you, we can actually have you up and running, fully operational in a day or two. That's the good news. It's not a long IT project. It's something that's actually very easy to implement. So I want to thank Lisa and Stephen for their time. Right now what I'd like to do is jump into the question and answer session, and we're going to bring in Catherine Bryant to help us ask those questions. Catherine?
Hi, everybody. I have some questions that we collected from all of you who have been listening. And our first one actually goes out to Stephen. It's, how did you overcome the human tendency to not embrace technology?
We actually let the results speak for themselves. When our staff began to see the reduction in the back and forth communication with our appraisers, when they began to see the reduction in the post-delivery revisions coming back from underwriting, the proof was right there for them. They got to see it firsthand, the impact that the tool's having.
That's great. Thank you. We have another question. This one actually is for Lisa Binkley. How easy is it to implement RealView?
You know, the great thing about Platinum Data, that's a good question, is you can make things as easy or as difficult as you want. We allow you to do that. But it's really it's a very simple process. We have rule templates that serve both of our types of customers, whether you're an AMC or appraisal originator or a lender. We have rule templates that are very robust and cover agency and use tax requirements that we can deploy immediately. So you can deploy the process as quickly as a day or two, or we can get it done, at the level of speed that you need to have it done to, as far as dependent upon the size of your organization.
I'd like to add also that Platinum Data has relationships with about 8 or 10 appraisal management systems. So all this ordering of the RealView reports can be a fully automated process, like it is in Stephen's case. We actually created a custom interface or Stephen's IT team created a custom interface using our API document.
All right, that's great. Thank you. We also have another question. Actually, it's for both Lisa and Stephen, and it is, how do regulators and auditors like the RealView reports?
Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, sure. From a third-party oversight perspective, and as I'm sure any of the AMCs that are on the call understand that, your lender partners come in and they want to ensure that you have the proper controls in place. And one of those controls is you're conducting a thorough quality control review on every file. And RealView stores all of that information into our system, and it will actually identify very clearly the process that was followed to review the file, who on our staff reviewed the file, the date it was done, if any corrections were requested, when those were sent back, when subsequent reviews were also completed. And that's laid out in a very clear format, and we can present that in a package to our auditors, whether it be running a report through a date range or pulling up the specific file.
Well, that's a great answer, Stephen, especially as prominent as that need is for the third-party oversight today. I will address the regulators and auditors from a investor-specific level. We don't interact directly with many of the investors. We have relationships and partnerships with a couple of them. But what I hear mostly is from our customers about how impressed regulators and auditors are with their appraisal process. If you recall, it's most important in today's lending environment, and the lender is 100% responsible for every single process that goes into originating that loan. If you recall, the most important thing that you have to do is you have to have a policy. So it's not just important that you have a policy, it's also important that you demonstrate that you actively follow that policy. So RealView provides you with that information. We also have tools that we provide our lender partners with policy around RealView. And then, once again, as Stephen just mentioned, not only can you pull reports that demonstrate all of your files go through the RealView process, you can also pull your files up on an individual basis to see specifically the results of an individual file. So auditors and regulators love it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Now we have a few more questions that keep coming in. So when this could be either for Lisa or Stephen, when your company does a review of an appraisal, are they using the RealView report only, or are they reviewing the original appraisal as well?
And I'll be happy to answer that from our perspective. RealView is a tool that assists our reviewer throughout the quality control process, and it ensures we have a consistent review of all client overlays and minimum requirements. So, the purpose of RealView is to guide our reviewers and provide a consistent review across all of our reviewers. And in addition to that, you can customize RealView to meet each client's specific overlay. So it is not a replacement. It is a tool. It is something that it aids you in providing a more standardized review, but at the same time allows you to customize by each individual lender you service.
So I think that on top of that, from a perspective of a line-by-line, page-by-page appraisal review, I would say that you really use them together.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And so, for example, because I use RealView and because my organization has applied an appropriate rule set to my reviewing needs, I don't have to go through field by field of the appraisal report checking things, because I can trust that my system takes care of that. So what I do is I'll go through my rule set to make sure that the exceptions that are noted in the report are firmly addressed, and then I'm going to make sure that this appraisal report is complete with regard to the attachments that it needs. I'm going to use my human logic, and I'm going to look at photos. So I think that really the important thing is that you use the two as a side-by-side tool with each other that lets you focus on what you need to focus on, but you don't have to go through those appraisal reports. Let's face it, sometimes they're 11 pages long, sometimes they're 25 pages long. You don't need to go through those reports page by page when you're using a RealView in conjunction with the appraisal report.
All right, thanks everyone. Just a few more questions, and this one specifically is for Stephen. Does the appraiser interface directly with RealView so they can clear the issues before submitting to your review team?
That's a great question. They do not interface directly with RealView currently. However, they do receive those RealView, those revisions or the conditions that are identified in the RealView process are delivered to the appraiser in a correction request word for word. So when we have that revised report delivered back to NVS, we can clearly identify which of those required revisions have been addressed and addressed properly. So they don't see RealView directly. However, they do see the results of RealView word for word as our reviewer would see it.
Great.
Great. We also are currently working on a future enhancement that is also going to be interfacing directly between the appraisers and the lenders and or AMCs. So that's an enhancement to watch for.
And that is it for all the questions, everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for attending, but before we go, we have a winner for the $50 iTunes gift card, and congratulations to Mark Chapman. I will be reaching out to you over the next day or so to get your mailing address, and we'll get that out to you as soon as we can. That's going to wrap up today's webinar. On screen, you're going to find some of our contact information. Thank you very much for attending, and keep your eyes peeled for an invitation to our next webinar. Thank you very much for your time. That concludes our presentation today.